it's true that there will be many other businesses using the very same intent signal to identify the potential opportunities.
Yeah.
So you have got to think about how you can refine even further and how your message can be differentiated from those others.
You don't know who is searching. If you think of a company with 5,000 employees, and if somebody's searching for email marketing tool, that could be an intern, it could be the CMO. Just a quick one before we get into the episode, because I've got an offer that I'm sure all of you will be interested in. AEO is something that every B2B marketing team is trying to figure out right now, and most just don't know where to start. But at Blend, we're offering a full AEO analysis of your brand's AI visibility, and we'll walk you through exactly what we found and what to do about it. From full prompt analysis against your competitors to a citation analysis, where we'll look at different content types and how you're being cited for those and mentioned in those, and what you can actually do to be mentioned and cited much more for your brand, and what content you should create going forwards, and how you comprise that strategy really. We will drop a note in the description of this episode in the show notes, and you can go over there, request your free AEO audit, and we will deliver that to you. Hi everyone, welcome back to Demand Decoded. Dan here with you, joined by Phil in the studio today. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about intent data in B2B go-to-market. And in particular, I suppose we'll touch a little bit on actually what intent data is, where it comes from. But I want to focus most of the time on the practical use cases and how you actually apply intent data to B2B go-to-market. Because a lot of people promise a lot of things when it comes to intent data, and it does seem to be reaching some sort of consensus that the future go-to-market will be largely dominated by what you can do with intent data, and how you can use intent data in your marketing and sales motions. But I haven't seen tons of like real life applications of intent data showing us what it can do, rather than just the classic, oh well, you can prospect with some of this stuff. Like, how is like marketing orgs as well, and even sales orgs, how can we think outside the box to use intent data, and how do we apply it effectively to get the maximum value out of these pretty expensive tools?
Right. It's one of those areas where you don't see many going deep on how they've operationalized it. And it's one of the marketing topics that tends to be dominated by the software vendor choice paradigm, which is who's the best vendor to do this for me, and what should I use, and not a lot on I applied it in this way and it delivered this result for me.
Sure.
So it would be good to lift the lid on that and hopefully encourage others to do the same.
Yeah. Before we get into the podcast today, here's a quick word from our sponsors, HubSpot. Most businesses think they know their customers. They have the data, the records, the history, but it's scattered across 3 teams and 4 systems, which means nobody can actually use it. HubSpot connects it all. Every interaction, every support ticket, every conversation into one platform every team can work from. So when sales talk to a customer, marketing already know the full story. And when you know more, you grow more. Check out HubSpot.com, the agentic customer platform for growing businesses. I think just quickly defining what intent data actually is, because really we got a couple of different buckets here when it comes to intent data, and this might be teaching some people how to suck eggs, but first party intent data is very different to the intent data tools and platforms out there which are capturing third party intent. So first party intent data is everything your own system, your CRM is capturing around email submissions on forms, and then the activity from those based on cookies that have been applied to your website, and track activity in your ecosystem of control. And then you've got third party intent, which is like behavioral data captured outside of your own ecosystem of things. So you've got providers like review sites and like aggregated data that will share that data with third party intent data platforms to kind of like aggregate information about your company and other companies and like share this data. And this is all small print stuff, like when you sign up for tools,
Right.
and there's probably tons and tons of tools that I definitely don't know about that are sharing data about research topics and things with intent data platforms
Totally.
that none of us know about, because when we just click like agree to terms and conditions, we're agreeing to the sharing of this information.
Quite.
I suppose reverse IP intent is kind of like a bit of a separate platform, because it's not third party intent data necessarily.
That's like first party data at the anonymous level,
Yes.
sort of thing, in terms of knowing which IPs have been on your domain. Most of us can track that through the tools that we have available to us, but it doesn't quite cross over into what the third party platforms are able to aggregate and present as one. So I think you're right about the distinction there.
Yeah. So, we've got, is there any, I'm not missing any there, am
I? No, I think that first party is fantastic, because it's where you have the ability to de-anonymize the data. So more or less exactly who is doing what. But of course, the limitation there is how much of that you can possibly know, and it will only get you so far. It's the end of the food chain, not the beginning. The third-party platforms provide something that's very, very different in the form of aggregated behavioral data across many, many sources.
Yeah.
But any attempt to de-anonymize it or bring it down to the personal level will be to some extent inferred.
Yeah.
There's going to be some assumptions being made there, because they won't know, for the most part, I think, who the individuals are that are performing the actions.
Yeah. So like when you come to third party and reverse IP intent data, this is pretty much, there are a couple of tools out there like B2B, which I haven't tried out, to be fair, which might be amazing, but I'm talking from experience here, because that's all we can do. Third party and reverse IP lookup is at an account level.
Yeah.
For them, like 90% of the time, it's going to be at an account level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the most important things, when it comes to, using intent data, is understanding what it is, and what underpins it. And for the most part, we all have a right to privacy, which is why we're not in these data sets, until we give up that right to privacy, for certain applications. And so, technologically, the providers can't overcome that. It's a barrier that they can't cross. There are technologies which make it all possible, and the static IP addresses of companies with known domain names and DNS settings is the sort of like foundational level of technology. It all tracks back to those sorts of like fundamental principles. And when you know that, and when you think about it like that, you understand what you can get out of them and what you can't get out of them, and that helps you to use it.
It helps you to use it, but it also creates some potential problems around how we frame and think about intent data, because I almost think about it in like the traditional lead generation sense, where we might capture somebody's email address and then send them content thinking that if they're looking at this content, it means they want to buy from us.
Right.
I mean, that's even at a first party level. Intent data at the third party level gets even further away from that. When we think about a primary use case of third party intent data is topical, and I can't remember what most of them call it. I think it's like topic data. So if somebody's
research
interest, that kind of thing. If somebody's searching for a particular category or topic, then you can collate those accounts that are searching for those things, but you don't know who is searching. If you think of a company with 5,000 employees, and if somebody's searching for email marketing tool, that could be an intern. It could be the CMO, very unlikely. It could be somebody in sales or customer success that are trying to like launch an email, or in, I don't know, the service department. It could be literally anyone. Mm-hmm. So we do have to be careful when trying to almost create this false confidence in intent data that, if that company is researching for, this particular topic in our category, they must be buying.
it's not. It's a signal,
Yeah.
but it's not a signal of absolute confidence that that is the case. As you say, there's a great many employees at these companies, who are on the web, stumbling across content in some respects. So you need to use other filters logically
Yeah.
to minimize the false positives that you act on in hope that they are true positives. And like, as you suggested, that harks back, to the days of lead scoring and using some first party intent data, such as they downloaded this guide,
Yeah.
as a strong signal of something that it wasn't. And that's very, very true here, as well. It doesn't correlation isn't causation. We need to use other methods of filtering and activating that data to try and increase our confidence.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Not to say it doesn't work, not to say we can't use it, and we're going to talk next about ways we can use
Absolutely.
it. It's just, making sure that we understand the risks around how we position it, like in the business and its true use case.
Yeah,
potential.
and I mean, that reality will explain why for most people, the response rate, the return rate will be low digits, just as they are for cold email, because there isn't a high degree of confidence and overlap in the sample set. If you take a give me it all and I'll message everybody type of approach.
Yeah.
Some of them will be researching and in market and might respond to your message, but a great deal won't, because it will be in sort of an erroneous signal about their intentions.
One thing to touch on third-party intent as well is the other angle, other than the topical side of things. You've actually got all of the company and personnel information that comes along with, like, company news, scoops it's called in some platforms, but if we just call it news and like company updates and information, within this bucket you've got things like funding rounds, you've got like new C-suite executives, you've got changes to there are so many, like the list goes on and on. Like could be new technology added to the stack, new product launched, like lots and lots of intent signals here. And the thing to bear in mind here is how you can match your buying triggers and category entry points to the intent signals, because that's going to bring you closer and more relevant with those things. So, for example, if you're marketing a finance platform and you found that most customers come to you after they've raised funding, for example, well, we can find the intent trigger for companies just raised. It might even be very specific, like Series B funding or something. Like that's very niche. You don't know why that would be, but let's just say it is. Well, that could be a really good intent trigger point for you to go after, because it matches so nicely with your category entry point.
Yeah, a lot of businesses will find, if they analyze their pipeline and revenue, that the triggers, some triggers reappear quite frequently, and they can often be in that news category. A new hire in the correct seat, a new event in the company's journey that very highly correlates with your inquiries, pipeline, and revenue. And so if you're able to find that match, then you're able to lean into with a high degree of confidence that opportunity. It's a double-edged sword, however, because so are lots of other people. It's true that there will be many other businesses using the very same intent signal to identify the potential opportunities. So you have got to think about how you can refine even further and how your message can be differentiated from those others, because you will not be the only one.
That's so true.
Triggering off funding round. Or new CFO, for example.
Even when I got promoted to director last year, I think I had at least, not loads, but like 5 emails across the next week or so that was like, congrats on the promotion type thing. Here's our product.
Okay.
It's like, I knew that they had
So-
some sort of criteria there.
That's interesting. And 5 is a lot less than I expected.
Yeah.
So maybe a sign that they're using the news event, but also geographic targeting, size targeting,
Yeah.
and being a bit more intelligent about it, which is a great thing because you're more likely to give some attention to 5 emails
Yeah.
than 500.
Probably the business size as well, right?
Yeah.
Like if we were,
Exactly.
if I was a new CMO at Canva,
Different story.
yeah,
Different story.
probably get 500 emails the next day after that news is announced.
Yeah, absolutely. You were targeted in a by those that wanted to get in your inbox ultimately. So
Yeah, but a use case off of that, like even in our scenario, is that we found through our Ask Elephant workflows, which run on every single sales discovery and consultation call, that there is a key buying trigger and category entry point, which is new marketing leaders. Typically, new marketing leader comes in, they want to assess the landscape around them. They want to look at their current agency usage, they want to look at their website, their conversions, their pipeline, and in a lot of cases, look for new vendors to support them in that. And that is a core moment where a lot of people engage us as a like marketing function that can help them drive pipeline, like execute their website properly, etc. So that would be a key thing for us to then go and create. Well, we have sequences based off of that particular intent trigger.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, right. Some more use cases to throw out there, because I kind of like to break this down into 2 different sides, because I don't want to abandon inbound completely when we think about intent data. And typically the conversation does that because it doesn't touch on how you can use intent data for inbound. It's just how we use intent data to go outbound to people.
Yeah, very true.
But I'm gonna use HubSpot's buyer intent tool here as a example because it's just in the tool, which is like really helpful. But one thing that I think a lot of businesses could be doing, and that we're doing, and I'll share some data on how effective that's been versus other methods, is curating LinkedIn audience targeting lists based off of intent data.
Yeah.
So rather than creating your cold list based on, your audience job titles and functions and size and things like that, or even like an account list that you just are just cold, but you think they're kind of in the right area, you can actually use intent data, which is still closer in terms of signals that somebody is buying, particularly at a reverse IP level as well. If you can tell an account has been on your website, then we can use like HubSpot's buyer intent tool, which is already in the platform, create lists for accounts that are, in this size, like niche them down in the ways we want, and actually look at accounts that have been on our website in the last 90 days or accounts that are researching these topics, pull them into a list in HubSpot, integrate that with LinkedIn, and then actually start advertising to accounts that are showing some form of intent, whether that, even if it's low intent, right? Like a research topic, it's still better than completely cold.
Yeah, absolutely. What a great way to sort of operationalize intent data in a pragmatic way that is aligned to the inbound, demand gen marketing mindset.
Yeah.
That's not to say we exclude outbound, as you say, but you don't have to go outbound to begin making use of intent signals. Construct your audience, target your advertising at them, and increase the likelihood that they will visit your site at some point in the future. And if you're doing inbound well, convert, express their interest because you have an offering that's relevant and valuable. And we know how effective that type of conversion journey can be. Like that is aligned to what we see producing the highest value pipeline and revenue numbers from marketing, operations, and amongst others, HubSpot as a tool can do all of that, for you in one place. Intent data signals in the platform, list generation, sync to LinkedIn, target your campaign and advertising at them, and then monitor what happens thereafter. Who's seeing the ad, and then who's also coming to your website and converting later.
just wanted to interrupt this episode to tell you about another show that's in the HubSpot podcast network, Nudge, hosted by Phil Agnew. Nudge is the UK's #1 marketing podcast, breaking down the hidden psychology behind what we do and why we do it. There's no BS, no fluff, just smart, science-backed insights that actually work. Recent guests include Rory Sutherland, Robert Cialdini, and Dan Pink. Marketers will love this show. I know you will because I do. And it's because it discusses the psychology behind customer decisions and the secrets to successful marketing. And in one recent episode, I'll pick on Robert Cialdini's episode because it was really, really insightful. It spoke about 16 years ago, there was a chain of Chinese restaurants that wanted to increase sales without changing price. They didn't change the product, they didn't change the service, the chef, the food. Instead, they just changed 2 words on their menu and increased sales by 18%. They are the small nudges that you can make in marketing, in sales, to actually make a big difference to sales and to revenue. Listen to Nudge wherever you get your podcasts. Right now, every B2B marketing team is trying to figure out AEO, where they stand, whether it matters for them, and what they're supposed to actually do about it. The best place to start is knowing where you stand. We're offering a full AEO analysis of your brand's visibility across AI search engines, how often you're mentioned, what you're being cited for, and how your competitors are showing up. Then we'll walk you through the findings on a call with clear next steps. And we're doing all of this for free. You can request your analysis in the show notes below. One way to measure this effectively, because of course we want to know that if we're using intent data in our LinkedIn campaigns, that it's more effective or less effective. Yep. Fibbler we had Adam Holmgren on the podcast a few episodes back now, obviously co-founder at Fibbler, like awesome product and big fans of it now. I can see in our Fibbler account right now, literally have it open, that in the last 90 days, we spent just shy of 10 grand on LinkedIn ads, and it's influenced 18 deals in the pipeline, given us an efficiency multiplier of 157x on that, with a 39x on deals that we've actually won, which is 10 out of that. And that for us, because they are good sized deals as well, is a very efficient use of that budget. Mm-hmm. And if we compare that to campaigns that were used without that, the efficiency was much less.
Right.
Our ability to actually generate pipeline and the multiplier on pipeline was much less than 157, and converted into revenue less than 39x. So if you are able to connect your LinkedIn campaign performance with pipeline, with revenue, right. And of course, this goes back to things we've touched on the podcast in the past about connecting your pipeline and revenue, because it's so important to have that connected view of your activity, like your LinkedIn campaigns, all the way through to your CRM, because it enables you to look at variances like this. If we use intent data in our audience segmentation, does it make our LinkedIn ads more effective or less effective?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're not going to be driving or looking for or see the result in the form of direct clicks, mm-hmm. and trackable conversions. So you need that. Fibbler allows us to bridge that gap, and see the results or the effect of that campaign in pipeline, which enables us to optimize and ultimately defend that strategy to ourselves and to the finances. Bearing in mind always that attribution information needs to be taken
of course,
with awareness of its flaws, but it's a signal which is very valuable and way better than no signal as to what effect those intent-driven campaigns are having in terms of our most critical business KPIs. So that's a great story. The ability to see all of that all the way through and improve performance by using intent data and targeting, whilst not, in our case, requiring things we don't have in order to get that working. It's brilliant.
Yeah. And you know what? It's made me think about our access to thinking outside the box with intent data as well, and where we can access intent data. Fibbler is a source of intent data, because you can almost layer on a higher intent engaged audience via your Fibbler data now, because you can see if you're running a LinkedIn campaign to like I don't know, low, medium, and high intent topics that HubSpot are flagging. You run those, but then you actually start to see that, okay, 20% of that audience in our LinkedIn ads are highly engaged because, they've clicked on our ads a lot or they've engaged with it, etc., etc. Fiddler's going to tell you that.
Right.
Well, we have that data in HubSpot. We can then create another list of highly engaged companies that have been, that have seen our ads more for impressions. They've been more engaged with our ads. So it's giving signals that they are more interested in what we're saying,
right,
in our message, in our ads. So, then we have a higher intent layer, and you could go again if you really wanted to.
And what would you recommend? Would that be you might go with a new message to those people?
Yeah,
because
a bit more bottom of funnel.
More, more researched, more familiar with the topic. So, most businesses have got at least an idea of what a sort of multi-layered campaign message might look like. For cold versus retargeting, for example, you could take some inspiration from that and like lean into that intent, that engagement with a new message bottom of the funnel.
Like we don't do that, for example, but I would do it if we had a larger audience, required more volume than we currently need, which we don't. And like needed that layered approach. We don't need that right now, but I would absolutely be doing something like that if we had the audience volume and the need for more like volume to come through the door.
And I like it because it's grounded in what intent data can really tell you, and not something that we wish it could tell us. It's based on the facts that those tools enable us to see. So it's got good rational justification for it. And I can see why that would drive a positive result, rather than just spend money that we never saw back again.
Absolutely. Another one that we could set up in marketing to, I suppose this is like bridging the gap in the engagement territory between marketing and sales, is intent triggered reactivation of accounts. So if there is already an account or a person, this is more account level though, in the CRM that's maybe gone quiet for 3, 6, 12 months, and then they start showing intent signals again. That could be third-party intent signals like via topic research or new hires perhaps, or at a first-party intent signal basis. Basically any intent that's showing us they are kind of re-engaging in our category or topics. That's a great opportunity to probably flag them to an SDR, or if you have come up with some like repeatable process that enrolls them in a particular sequence for that. I mean, I haven't seen that done particularly well, because I think then we're getting in the realms of like recycling leads in the old sense, and never really saw that working.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I suppose what you're talking about there is the intent data doesn't have to exclusively produce net new records. A lot of the time it will. We'll use that system to identify new companies who are in market. But once that company's in your CRM, that doesn't mean that they will never be in market again, never research that topic again. And so I think, again, whilst you can take lead recycling too far and sort of basically never give up like a dog with a bone, you can also do it strategically. You can also say, well, we may have the record already, but we've got a reason to engage, re-entertain this record around the block again. So I think that's just using the right records at the right time, regardless of whether they are new in your CRM or existing. As opposed to perhaps just never letting go and never giving up on somebody. I can think of a couple of companies that have done that to me over the years. Relentless. Even though there's no signal or reason to be hopeful about it. I like it.
And that's like account level intent data. Most platforms will call that, where you basically have like a list of companies on your watch list, and you can set up notifications to flag the owner of that account or contact if any of these your chosen intent signals show. That's probably the way to set
that. And I mean,
that.
Presumably all of that can be driven by like ICP like targeting. So your system will know which companies are theoretically attractive to you. So that's automated.
Yeah.
And for some of those companies, you'll have named contacts in your CRM, so you will know the person to go to, which might be one strategy.
Yeah.
And in other situations, you won't have that contact, but you've got a play. You've got a method of going out to the account and trying to get those contacts.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of options.
Absolutely. Last use case I have for marketing is any kind of event or webinar leads that you're trying to attract, because if we can identify the right accounts at the right moment, inviting them to a webinar or an event in your category on a particular topic that we know they might be researching is better than just cold. Again, it's like we are giving ourselves just a bit of an advantage, more probability that they will engage with us based on intent data. Might not work, it might work, it might land on the right person. Probabilistically, we are just giving ourselves a better opportunity to hit the right person at the right time with the right message. And driving event and webinar attendees can be tricky, but if you find the right moment to hit somebody with that message because they are interested in that particular problem that they're trying to solve, that can be a really good way to use it.
Yeah. If you try to invite your entire TAM to every single event you run, you're going to enjoy pretty poor results, and they won't particularly love it either. So being able to, intelligently narrow down the pool increases the odds of success. I think that's a very, very sound strategy too. Like you say, give yourself every advantage. It's a noisy world out there, right? Everybody's getting heaps of messages all the time. A key factor in standing out isn't just content that stands out. It's being selective about who you send and what you send and when and why and to who. Those are all advantages to build around your campaign.
Yeah. Well, and those points go directly into the outbound sales side of this as well.
Right.
Knowing, who you're targeting, what your message is, and why you're reaching out to them are all super important things. Otherwise, your outbound motion is no better than just blasting thousands and thousands of people with a cold message. It's so important that we're using intent data in outbound to make our lists much, much smaller rather than larger, because the intent signals should be able to curate a tighter list that are organized around buying triggers for our category and things of interest.
Yeah. If you look at where your pipeline comes from, it is going to predominantly come from the small percentage of people for whom your offer is relevant at that moment in time. I.e., they're in market, they're in ICP, they've got a reason to be attracted to you, along with certain other competitors. You've got a disproportionate, reason to win that business. That's where your energy needs to go. Be it just spraying and praying across, your whole ICP category. Is not what produces the results. They're always going to be in that set of. There's a reason why they're in our pipeline now. Reason or reasons why they're in our pipeline.
And this is kind of what we touched on before when it comes to company news and updates that give us a reason to reach out. And we kind of joked about having tons of emails based on these signals. So this isn't a prospecting lesson. I'm not a prospecting expert anyway. I'd much rather talk about the inbound side of ways to use this, because it's where I'm more comfortable. But I am starting to get to grips more with how we use intent data in an outbound motion. And in particular, using these signals, drawing them in from Zoom Info, or even, Apollo or HubSpot buyer intent itself, and actually using those in outbound, or, we'll touch on agents, I suppose, at some point.
I mean, I for one would definitely like to see the issue that was raised by LinkedIn a couple of years back, now resolved, whereby marketing and sales teams were largely targeting completely distinct cohorts. They were targeting different people altogether. A clear, both the sign and the reason that sort of go-to-market efficiency was low.
Yeah.
Because they need to be targeting the same people with the same level of finesse. And intent data is an opportunity to be really, really aligned.
Yeah.
And so, as you say, while marketing is our sort of wheelhouse to an extent, we're very aware of the need to bring, for go-to-market to incorporate inbound and outbound that works effectively together. And, both teams can be run in a way that just, again, sprays, throws stuff at the wall, see what sticks. Or you can be aligned with one another and targeted and intentional about it. And that will produce great results.
Yeah. Well, I haven't looked at the latest report on the touch points required for a B2B buyer journey. I think last time I looked at, I'm sure it's somewhere in like the 20 regions, maybe even higher.
Okay, to 20 exposures to you to
for something. There was a hockey stack report like ages ago, which is the last one I looked at, but it's a lot anyway. Yeah. And we know that if you've seen a brand, like you can just tell this from personal experience as well. If you've been exposed to a brand over and over again and you've started to resonate with the message that they have applied, it doesn't matter where that is. It could be on a billboard walking down the street. It could be like on the back of your water bottle. It could be a LinkedIn ad. It could be a connected TV ad. It could be a series of outbound messages to you. But we know that not just marketing, but go-to-market as a whole is a connected suite of actions and activity and a process that happens. If we're running intent data both in an inbound marketing way, those are two connected words, disconnected words, and a sales way, that we have more chance of that company engaging with us because they've seen our brand in multiple places over, multiple weeks, in different formats, in different varieties with different messages. Our outbound messages is gonna land better and have a higher chance of engagement because of the resonance with our brand.
Yep. But, brands are strange things in terms of how they do their work, right? Conceptual, at a theoretical level. But if you can be present, in multiple places that your ideal customer sees, and there is a frequency of exposure that doesn't cross the line into, assault, and there's relevance, like your brand can become quite positively viewed in their mind, even to a degree beyond what you've earned, right? Like, because we trust what we know, and we know what we've seen a lot of. So it becomes a very strong angle to work these two things together around a very, very tightly defined audience. Intent data being a great way to build a quality audience.
Absolutely.
To produce, like mental availability, brand affinity, trust and preference, and of course pipeline.
I think the last thing on outbound, like there's lots of different ways you can execute outbound. You can flag tasks based on intent signals. You can run sequences automated that you've written yourself or that sales want to go ahead and write. Or you can start to experiment with things like agents, and that can be like HubSpot's prospecting agent, Clay, loads of other tools out there that enable you to use agents to research companies, research contacts, collate intent signals, and use those in outbound sequences. And I have been pretty impressed with the output that's possible from HubSpot's prospecting agent. When it came out, had some flaws, but they've released a new version, updated version, that enables you to curate instructions at a level that it listens to a lot more effectively now. And I would encourage everybody that's thinking about how to use their intent data more effectively to check out these ways that might be a lower barrier to entry, to actually start to play around with how you create this kind of like a dual intent data system between marketing and sales, like using advertising plus some sort of prospecting as well. Like layer in prospecting agent, trigger it in a workflow based off of an account entering a list that meets this criteria, then fire it into prospecting agent for the contacts that you have. And yeah, it's actually quite insane.
Yeah, I think we're turning a corner in this regard where we're gaining the ability to, have control and governance over, AI, over agents that can do this work for us in a way that means we're holding ourselves to account for the quality and the relevance of it.
Yeah.
Everybody will have had, fears of, huge amounts of AI spam and AI slop, and it's definitely happening. But I think we're all agreeing that parts of our process for outbound and prospecting can be orchestrated and AI powered without losing all, all of the things that made it successful, when humans were
Yeah.
operating every aspect of it. It's a new way of doing it. It's a new way that takes some getting used to, but I think it's becoming the norm, and there's no reason to fear it and not do it. Yeah, you do just have to use these tools in ways that you feel confident are going to add to your brand as opposed to detract from it and erode it, because you can easily go wrong.
Yeah.
Normally that's going to be a scale
Yeah.
thing, because the tools have got good enough now to be able to create messages with the right prompting and the right architectural thinking about what they output and why.
Yeah.
You can get there.
I still haven't enabled prospecting agent to go totally autonomous yet, though. I don't know when I'll get to that point. Not yet. Right now, it's like I have to review every email. For the most part, I'm just clicking approve. But I don't know. It feels like a big leap to just have an agent then sending emails that we're not even seeing on behalf of the business.
I think that's normal, and I think that's a perfectly okay journey to go on. We've never done it at scale the other way.
Yeah.
So we're not coming from a world where there have been messages going out from our domain or organization at volume, and we've been conditioned to know that they're not all going to get a response.
Yeah.
We've got to come to terms with that.
Yeah.
I wager that it will not be long before you flip that switch.
Yeah.
And I would encourage it. Always keeping an eye. We need to keep monitoring, but not being always in the loop.
Yeah.
When we're not adding anything. And it sounds like you've already got our prospecting agent to a level where, for the most part, you're happy to approve and pass it on through. So I think we're close to being.
Yeah,
in
it won't be long.
We can become a monitoring function rather than a approving function in that chain.
Yeah, I do think. Just on like prospecting messaging and things, because from what I've tried in the different variants, we still need to be mindful that there is like a mutual, some form of like value exchange in our outbound approach. Just using intent signals to say, oh, hey, like, seen you've been promoted to CMO. Do you want to buy our product? Like, out of the box, a lot of these prospecting tools will do that.
Yeah.
It will look for the signal, look for your product, and say, hey, seen the signal, check out our product.
Pretty
like
weak source.
Still,
approaches.
We've got to put our marketing brains behind what's the offer, what's the value we're adding here, why would anybody want to respond to us or want to engage with us in any meaningful way based off of this intent signal and this thing they're receiving.
Yeah. And that becomes the sort of, that's the essence of what it is to be a go-to-market professional in the AI era.
Yeah.
You've got to put the effort goes into the setup, the architecture, the prompting, and the creation of something that outputs a message that is, suitable for transmitting. We live in a society, thank goodness, and if you want a response, you've got to be thoughtful about what the other person has going on, and give value. Like I say, the mantra to give value before you ask for it still carries a lot of weight. If you simply pitch slap everybody that even thinks about researching your topic, you're not going to get great results. It'll frustrate you. It'll frustrate those that pay the budget, and most likely end up in something getting terminated. So better to plan, build, refine, and then launch that sort of thing, rather than switch it on and just let it do what it thinks is good enough.
Yeah. I think to kind of round us out on this one, intent data is full of data. There's more and more data, there's more and more signals added all the time. And it's not about the volume of data you can have. More doesn't mean more effective. It's about acting on the right signals, identifying the right buying triggers, and prioritizing the data available to you rather than trying to act on all of it. It's not a magic list of buyers that are ready to buy from your business. Like, please don't be misled by that, because it's really not. But it tells you at least the areas to focus, and gives you signals to act on.
Yeah, I think if at all possible, there's real merit in like staying practical about this and trying where possible to reduce hype and set expectations. So much so that I think, it would be even better if the use cases for intent were coming up through the organization from the people delivering demand, go to market, be it on the marketing side, the sales side, or the combined function. And being introduced by them to deliver a strategy that's got legs, rather than the top down. I've heard this platform's amazing and should get us 100 meetings by tomorrow, figure it out. If we can control and lead, we can put in place programs that have real merit and are not just spam on rails. So try and be on the front foot there, because there's a world of opportunity in this data. It's incredibly useful, incredibly powerful, but you've got to harness it in ways that produce for the recipient the right experience in order for you to get back the value that is possible.
For sure. All right, let's wrap it up there. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode of Demand Decoded. We haven't dived into intent data yet, I don't think. So that was cool to do that. And thoroughly enjoyed that episode. And we will catch you next time. Bye, everyone.
See you.
Thanks for listening to the episode today. Before you head off, if AEO has been on your mind and you're not sure where to start, here's something worth doing right now. We're offering a full AI visibility analysis completely free. We'll look at how your brand is showing up across the major AI engines, what's influencing those results, how competitors compare, and what you should do about it. Then we'll walk you through all the findings on a call. Actual findings too, specific to your business with real next steps. Not a template, not a PDF, a proper analysis. You can request yours by clicking the link in the description below.